He's back and bolder than ever. Jungkook's Calvin Klein comeback stuns the world. But it's his tattoo that stole the spotlight. Flushed face fire. Who could have imagined that a single photograph could freeze the internet? After months of silence, after the long stretch of his military service, after whispers that the golden magne might take time to rediscover himself, Jungkook of BTS has finally reappeared, and not quietly. No staged teaser, no slow rollout, no polite reintroduction. Instead, a global shockwave. Jungkook, shirtless in a bold Calvin Klein campaign, backlit by the raw pulse of the 1990s aesthetic, wrapped in black denim, and stamped once again with that impossible combination of softness and rebellion. But it wasn't just his gaze or his form that sent fans into meltdown. It was the flash of ink that seemed to tell a story no one was ready for. Because this time, Jungkook wasn't just modeling a brand. He was declaring war on every limitation ever placed on him. The photos appeared online at dawn KST, first on Calvin Klein's global Instagram page, just a single frame, no caption beyond the thunderous tag, #Jungkook's Calvin Klein. Within seconds, the post shattered engagement records. Millions of likes in minutes, tens of thousands of comments flooding in like a digital tsunami. Fans didn't just double tap, they screamed, "He's back." One wrote in all caps, "We survived the hiatus." Another posted through tears. And yet, through all the noise, one question burned brighter than the flash photography. What does the new tattoo mean? There it was, near the curve of his arm. New ink, partially visible, deliberately unhidden. Not the familiar ones we already know, not the constellation of symbols that once decorated his hand and shoulder. This one was different, sharper, bolder, undeniably intentional. Fans zoomed in, analyzed, speculated, and dissected. Some swore it resembled a crescent moon, others believed it was a broken infinity sign, and a few argued it looked like initials intertwined, letters that might not belong to him. It was chaos. Beautiful, electrifying chaos. Because Jungkook didn't just return to the spotlight, he commanded it with the ease of a man who knows his power. And yet, this wasn't only about an idol showing skin or a global brand reviving a campaign. It was about timing. Because Jungkook's return to Calvin Klein didn't happen in isolation. It landed exactly as BTS's military hiatus reached its end, marking the symbolic reawakening of a group that never really left. The timeline is too perfect to be coincidence. By June 2025, all 7 members had officially completed their service. By October, the whispers began, talks of reunions, brand negotiations, secret studio sessions. And now, Jungkook's Calvin Klein comeback, explosive and unapologetic, arrives as if to say, the Kings are ready to reclaim their throne. His ranking at number 4 in the 2025 Top 100 Most Handsome Faces of K-pop came days before the campaign dropped, reinforcing what the world already knows. There's something about Jungkook that refuses to fade, even when he disappears from the public eye. During his absence, rookie idols rose. New faces appeared, and trends shifted, but no one could replicate the particular magnetism that made him a global phenomenon. He doesn't chase the spotlight. The spotlight bends toward him. While fans were still analyzing the tattoo, fashion critics began their own dissection. The campaign's creative director described the shoot as a revival of raw masculinity through the lens of emotional truth. And truth was exactly what Jungkook brought to every frame. Gone was the polished boy of the Love Yourself era. What stood before the camera now was a man stripped of pretense, marked by experience, and unafraid to embrace imperfection as identity. The subtle scar, the ink, the shadowed eyes, they all told a story. One not of scandal or rebellion, but of freedom. And yet, for all the artistic language and praise, fans couldn't ignore the emotional undercurrent. This wasn't just a comeback campaign. It felt like a message, perhaps even a response to the long silence that haunted ARMY during the group's enlistment. After all, the world had changed while BTS was away. New groups had debuted, new genres had merged, and the industry was no longer the one they had once dominated effortlessly. Yet, in a single photo shoot, Jungkook reminded everyone what star power truly looks like. But there's another layer to this moment, one that few are brave enough to voice. Why did Jungkook's comeback carry such tension? Why the midnight release, the cryptic imagery, the quiet yet deliberate unveiling of a tattoo that clearly meant something? Insiders whisper that the campaign was originally scheduled for late August, but delayed at Jungkook's personal request. He wanted it to align with something important. What that something is remains a mystery, though speculation ranges from upcoming BTS reunion content to an independent project that may intertwine both personal and professional rebirth. And then there's the connection to the AHUF chart, where Jungkook's reappearance has stirred fierce conversation. Despite his temporary absence, BTS members continue to dominate global recognition lists, even as new acts like JL of AHUF, the rookie sensation ranked number 3, emerge on the horizon. The contrast between Jungkook's veteran aura and JL's fresh-faced energy has fueled comparisons across fan bases. But here's what most observers are missing. Jungkook's return doesn't compete with a new wave. It defines the standard they must rise to. Every generation has its icons, but few transcend generations the way BTS does. Behind this glossy Calvin Klein imagery lies a deeper narrative about what it means to evolve under the world's gaze. Jungkook, once the youngest of 7, has returned as something different. Not just the golden magne, but the man who embodies the bridge between eras of K-pop. His campaign blurs the line between idol and individual, between artist and cultural symbol. And that tattoo? Whether it's art, message, or memory, it anchors him firmly in that evolution. The campaign also marks a pivotal moment for Calvin Klein, whose 1990s-inspired aesthetic mirrors the cyclical nostalgia gripping fashion. By choosing Jungkook to lead their latest concept, they didn't just secure a model, they secured a movement. It's not about clothes, it's about attitude. And Jungkook's attitude has always been a blend of contradiction. Delicate but daring, quiet yet defiant, accessible yet untouchable. The world can sense when an image transcends marketing. This one did. It's impossible to ignore the symbolism of his return aligning with BTS's post-service horizon. June 2025 wasn't just a date on the calendar, it was the closing of one chapter and the trembling opening of another. For years, fans anticipated what the group's collective reemergence would feel like. Would they be different? Would they retain the same energy that once united millions across continents? Jungkook's campaign answers without words. They are not returning as they were. They are returning stronger, sharper, freer. Still, the question lingers like perfume in the air long after the image fades from your screen. What story is Jungkook's new tattoo trying to tell? Fans have theorized everything from coded initials to song references, even emotional tributes tied to BTS's shared history. Some argue it mirrors lyrics from his solo track, Standing Next to You, which spoke of eternal companionship and loyalty beyond fame. Others insist it's a symbol of closure, a visual punctuation mark to the chapter of his youth that ended the day he enlisted. Whatever it means, Jungkook has done what he always does best: leave the world desperate for answers while giving them art instead. Fashion experts say the comeback sets a precedent not just for K-pop idols, but for how global celebrities navigate their post-service image reinvention. Jungkook didn't rely on press conferences or staged interviews. He let imagery speak. And that's what makes it revolutionary. It's not a rebranding, it's a reawakening. Even now, hours after the campaign launch, Twitter trends refuse to calm. Jungkook tattoo, golden magne returns, and Calvin Klein King dominate timelines. Analysts estimate the campaign may break engagement records set by even Western luxury houses. It's proof that Jungkook's name carries cultural gravity that stretches beyond music, beyond Korea, beyond language itself. But beneath the glamour, there's emotion. Raw, real, almost tangible. Fans describe a strange mix of pride and melancholy. Pride, because he's back, unafraid, breathtaking. Melancholy, because it feels like a goodbye to something softer, younger, more innocent. It's the paradox that defines every true artist's evolution. In gaining freedom, they lose the very mystery that made them untouchable, and yet, perhaps that's exactly what Jungkook wanted. To stop being a symbol and simply be a person, inked, Imperfect, unstoppable. The Calvin Klein campaign may have been the trigger, but the deeper story lies in that single, burning question everyone keeps whispering to themselves as they scroll through his photos for the 1,000th time. Is this just the beginning of Jungkook's new era, or has he already begun something the world hasn't even realized yet? The hours following Jungkook's Calvin Klein reveal felt like a global blackout. Not because people stopped paying attention, but because they stopped breathing. Social media froze under the weight of one name, Jungkook. On X, formerly Twitter, hashtags like #JungkookCK #Tattoo Mystery, and #Golden Magne is back climbed to the top of worldwide trends. In Seoul, digital billboards replayed his campaign clip on loop. In Times Square, fan collectives sponsored LED screens flashing the words, "The legend returns." This wasn't just a brand launch. It was a cultural eruption, and every frame of it carried the electricity of a new beginning. For a moment, the world forgot he'd been away for nearly 2 years. Gone were the military buzz cuts, the rumors, the speculations about whether BTS could reclaim their dominance. The answer was already on display in high definition. Jungkook didn't need to reclaim anything. He never lost it. Yet beneath the global hysteria lies something far more profound. A narrative that stretches beyond the surface-level dazzle of fashion and fame. To understand the magnitude of this comeback, one must remember where Jungkook came from and what the world looked like the last time he stood before a camera for Calvin Klein. When Jungkook first became a global ambassador for Calvin Klein in 2023, he was a phenomenon in bloom. The youngest BTS member turned global superstar, the it boy of an entire generation, the living embodiment of what it means to be both boyish and bold. That era gave us the iconic black and white portraits that cemented him as a global sex symbol. But this 2025 version, post-military, post-hiatus, post-silence, is something else entirely. The man in front of the lens now carries a stillness that doesn't seek validation. He doesn't smile for approval. He exists with purpose. Every muscle, every glance, every silent breath feels like the language of someone who's learned to command presence rather than chase attention. And that's why this comeback feels seismic. Because in a landscape obsessed with novelty, Jungkook didn't come back to reinvent himself. He came back to remind the world of what never died. The tattoo that started a stormy noon, fans had already magnified, enhanced, and analyzed the tattoo to near-obsessive levels. One user on X posted a close-up of the ink with the caption, "This is not just art. This is storytelling." Another fan theorized that the design resembled a distorted infinity sign, perhaps symbolizing a cycle broken and reborn, a theme that fits eerily well with BTS's current chapter. On Weverse, armies exchanged essays trying to decode it. Some swore it was connected to a lyric from Still With You. Others saw parallels to Jungkook's own words before enlisting. "Every end I face will only bring me closer to a new start." But the intrigue deepened when fashion insiders revealed that Calvin Klein's creative team had no involvement in designing or highlighting the tattoo. In fact, one anonymous source told Harper's Bazaar Korea that the mark was not part of the initial concept. He insisted it stay visible, the insider shared. He told the team, "This is me now. Don't cover it." That single statement, so quiet, so resolute, perfectly encapsulates the essence of Jungkook's evolution. The boy who once hid his tattoos under long sleeves is now the man who wears them as armor. It's this refusal to edit himself that makes his every move so compelling. He's not chasing aesthetic trends. He's telling a story only he understands. And that, perhaps, is what drives the frenzy. Fans aren't just reacting to his body. They're reacting to his mystery. Because every time Jungkook reveals something new, he leaves just enough unsaid to keep the world guessing. The world reacts. Chaos, pride, and TRSB, the Time evening hit Seoul, news outlets from Rolling Stone to Vogue, Billboard, and The Guardian had already released their takes. Rolling Stone called the campaign a visual manifesto of self-liberation. Vogue Korea described it as a moment of artistic defiance. And The Guardian wrote, "If there's any doubt that BTS's cultural reign continues beyond the military hiatus, Jungkook's Calvin Klein return just erased it." In London, fans gathered outside Calvin Klein's flagship store, holding banners and blasting 7 Feet Lotto through portable speakers. In Tokyo, Jungkook's face illuminated Shibuya crossing screens for the first time since his enlistment. In Los Angeles, a spontaneous flash mob recreated the poses from the campaign shoot. What makes this moment surreal is that Jungkook hasn't spoken a single word publicly since the campaign dropped.
No interview, no livre estream, no Deskription.
Just pure, controlled silence, and it's working. Because when Jungkook goes silent, the world talks louder.